Great. Okay, so the room is filling up. Again, thank you everyone for joining us. Always be learning how entrepreneurs succeed as leaders. And before I introduce the panelists, I would love to start out to everybody who may not know more about the nonprofit. And we'll go through a few slides and then introduce the panelists and then get into the discussion. So we can advance to the next slide here. So start out is our mission is to increase the number, diversity, and impact of LGBTQ entrepreneurs. Start out as a 501(c) nonprofit organization and the largest national organization to support LGBTQ entrepreneurs with over 17,000 members. We have a lot of resources on our website. If you don't subscribe to our newsletter, this list here will give you an idea of all the different areas that we focus on. We have a growth lab with a lot of graduates coming out of that program. We have a very robust mentorship program. We'll talk about that in a little more detail as we're in our conversation today. We have one-on-one sessions. We have an investor portal. And we have a lot of programming throughout the year. So this whole year, it has been virtual. So it has given us the opportunity to program by content and make all of our events available to everybody. We'll continue to do that, as well as in 2022, we will go back to having some in-city events that we will promote and welcome everybody to as we move throughout the year and see what's safe to do. So if you're not following us on social media, you can find us in all the regular places. So next slide, please. We have a long list of really important sponsors. We are a nonprofit, and we have a lot of great partners and sponsorships that allow us to continue to keep building our programs, both our programming and our signature events, demo days, and various other things. So big call out and thank you to our sponsors. Next slide. It's the end of the year, but we still have 3 more events after this one. You can see the dates here. Our events are open to all. Definitely feel free to attend, share, no charge, register in advance, and you'll get a reminder. And we've got these 3 events here. And the last one being Network and Community Wednesday Wind Up. So please definitely feel free to join us. We welcome you to come back to other events. And then you'll see our new programming start rolling out next month for 2022. Next slide. So today we've got a really great group of panelists talking about always learning. I mean, we're all doing this, whether we're panelists or not. And I want to introduce our 3 panelists. So we've got Kadi Findling, who's dialing in from Austin, she, her. And we've got Romica Prasad, who is dialing from Seattle, also she, her. And then we've got Scott Schwartz dialing in from Chicago. So I am going to hand the mic over. Let's go in alphabetical order, just keep this smooth. Kadi, why don't you go first? Give us a little intro of your background, what you're doing, and talk just a bit about your background, and then we'll get into the panel discussion after we introduce each of you.
Awesome. Well, thanks to everyone again for joining us tonight. My name is Kadi Findling. Again, I live in Austin, Texas, and my background is in marketing. I had a startup called My Coffee Pass that kind of struggled due to COVID, and now I am the co-founder and CMO of Evergreener, which is a timeless and functional productivity system that is designed to motivate you to create change in your life one day at a time. We have 4 products, so we'll talk about that more later, but that is me.
Great. All right, Romica, you're up next. Thanks.
Hey everyone, I am Romica. I am currently located in Seattle, Washington. I am a business and a mindset coach where I help entrepreneurs level up their confidence so they can be successful in their businesses and in life. I am also a recovery coach where I help people with alcohol and drug addiction live happy and healthy lives in sobriety. So that's me.
Great. And Scott.
Hey everybody, my name is Scott Schwartz. I'm in Chicago, Illinois. I'm one of the principal owners of Smart Price Sales and Marketing. Because there's a class of consumers that need to feed their family on $20 a day. They treat the dollar store as if it's their primary grocery store, and we create and market food products that are sold through dollar store chains. We've got about a dozen plants in 4 countries that are co-packing for us today. And we move about 100 trucks a month of food around the United States. And prior to that, I was director of strategic partnerships with Paylocity, which is an HR management software company.
Great. Thank you for that introduction, everybody. And for the attendees, feel free to pop in any questions as we go along. We'll try to address them throughout the session, especially while we're on different topics. So I'd like to start out with a framing question around 2 key words that are in the title of our session today for each of the panelists. Can you share a few thoughts on what you feel encompasses both success and leadership in your life and business? Just expand on kind of where we're starting with the topic for this panel. And again, we'll kind of go with the same flow when going through the questions. If you want to start out first, Katie.
So success for me, I mean, the learning, right? So always be learning is my big thing, which is why I'm excited to be on the panel, because I'm a firm believer that I know nothing about nothing. So even though I would say that my background is marketing, I always find that there is always someone smarter than me and always something to learn. And I found that even within my being an entrepreneur, starting off my entrepreneurial experience with my Coffee Pass and wearing all of the hats, whether it was operations or tech or all of that, just always being willing to learn and seek out mentors, which I know that we're going to talk about later. But to me, that's what's going to help me be successful in any endeavor that I do. And now working as the CMO for Evergreener. So that's my experience with it.
Great. Romica, some thoughts on that as well? Success and leadership, what that means from your point of view?
Yeah, for me, success in leadership is, again, it's about learning. It's about constantly growing because, we're always growing, we're always expanding. And as entrepreneurs and as leaders, like we're always facing challenges. And so the more successful we become, the more different challenges obviously we face. So I think continual learning and growth is so important in leadership. Also, I think it's so important to learn from successful people because all the successful people in the world have coaches, trainers, and mentors where we get to learn from other people's experiences, knowledge, and wisdom. So for me, learning is such an integral part of leadership and success.
Great, thanks. Scott?
Romica, that's a great place to start. What I look at it, I came to this to entrepreneurship, after I've done some other things. And one of my coaches said, "Are you sorry you waited so long to kind of go out on your own?" I said, "No, I had all these other people that were paying me to make mistakes. Now I learned from those mistakes and I can do better." So I think learning from what you've already done, challenging yourself in a smart way, and encouraging other people to come along with you is kind of where success and leadership is for me.
Nice. Great answers. Thank you. It's been said that the way we spend our time defines who we are. And it seems like there's never enough time, especially in, the entrepreneurial cycle of things. But can each of you share roughly how much time you hope to allocate each week to all the various things you do? We'll talk about what those things are after, but if you could share what your schedule looks like, how you are accountable to get the things done, the reading that you want to do, the podcasts, the training that you may take. And I'll hand the mic to you, Katie.
Back to me. Yay. So for me, I am obsessed with learning. I will say that all the time, personal development, reading, podcast, you name it. When I wake up in the morning, when I wake up, I put on, there's various YouTube videos, and some of them are like a compilation of different speakers, whether it's like Brene Brown, Tony Robbins, Tom Bilyeu, Ed Milet, like I could name a bazillion people. And for me, there's just so much power in each one of those people that there's lots of motivation and there's great advice. And so I just feel when I start off like that, my day is very empowered. I also meditate. So meditation, getting still, and letting things come to my mind and flow. And I will take a cold shower because there is power in cold showers, and I could go into that more detail later. But essentially, I'm doing all of these things in the morning to prep my mind for the day. And then obviously getting my exercise in weekly, of course, work. But those are like the things where I feel like those are the things that actually help set up my days, which then in return help set up my weeks to be successful. So those are some just like little tidbits. And I listen to podcasts while I'm on the Stairmaster. So there's that. So it's a lot. Like, actually, now that I think of it, that is a lot, but there's just always so much to learn. So it's a little snippet of my day.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And Romica, what's your week look like?
Kind of to add on, like similar to Katie, like I have a morning routine that I start with. And so in my morning routine, obviously I meditate as well. I also do a workout. As a coach, I have a coach as well. And I also have an accountability partner, which really helps me to stay accountable to what I say I'm going to do throughout the day. And so, that's pretty much how I schedule my day. And basically, other than that, I do various different things. But one of the issues that I've had in the past is, and I want to address this because there might be some people on the panel that may have struggled with this or are struggling with this, is actually starting something and then finishing it, or getting overwhelmed with the amount of information that's out there, because there's so much information on the internet, so many books and so many things as entrepreneurs for us to actually read and follow and all these things that we can easily get lost. And so one of the things that I do as a part of my routine is whenever I embark on a book or a program or anything, is I ask myself, I'm very intentional about my learning. So one of the things I do is I create a vision. I know this sounds like it's a lot, but I ask myself, what is the problem that this particular book or this program is going to solve for me? What am I going to get out of this? Why am I doing this? And I find that when I started doing that, I was able to actually really get into what I was learning, and I was able to finish it as well. So that's kind of my routine for learning.
Yeah, and I think that added intentionality and focus allows one to walk away with more in-depth learning. So yeah, it's a good practice. And Scott?
Wow, you guys with your meditation, I'm kind of jealous. I've tried that, and it's hard for me to keep all those other thoughts from coming in, because there's always something going on. But for me, I start off every morning by listening to the NPR podcast Up First, which is kind of a 15-minute headlines, and then I typically will have a coffee and read something that's a business book or periodicals. Get on with my day, and then I take a break almost every day to go work out in the middle of the day. For me, it's Orange Theory Fitness or Core Power Yoga, which I know they're shopping center places, but oh, you're Core Power too, Katie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and one of the reasons I like that is, I like Core Power because it is the same routine. It's almost like Bikram, where it's the same routine every time. So I don't have to put that much thought into getting into the position. And if something else comes into my head, I'm going to fall over. The reason I like Orange Theory is I don't have to think about what I'm doing, because the coach is telling me what it is. And as a business person, I like to count what counts. And because you're wearing a heart rate monitor and you've got all of your prior workouts that they track, it's perfect for me because I'm competing with myself. And this way I know that in the last 5 years today, I had gone to 734 Orange Theory workouts.
Wow.
And so I'm counting that myself. And that's how I try to prioritize things. I've got two teenage daughters, so 16 and 19. So they're all off doing their own thing, and any minute that I can have with them, I try to program into my day. And if it's not in my Google Calendar, it doesn't happen.
Got it. I'm an NPR person in the morning too. I get you. We have some polling questions, some pretty straightforward questions. We're going to push up the first question and ask the attendees how they're doing with how they feel they're doing with their continued learning and development. There we go. We'll give everybody like a little less than a minute to pop in. The results are coming in. Thank you for taking it. All right, so we are at 40% getting started and 40% making progress and 20% feeling really good. So actually, the same question for the panel. How are you guys? If of course, you're beyond getting started. Are you feel like you're making progress or feeling really good?
We going in order again?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to go, but I'll chime in. I feel like, some days are easier than others. For me, when I'll just mention COVID, since we're kind of getting out of COVID, hopefully. When COVID happened, I felt like I actually dove deeper into it. So that was nice for me. But recently, everyone knows I'm getting ready to move to Florida. And so it's been a little out of wonk for me. But overall, I feel pretty good about where I'm at with it. So
Great. We'll skip it. We'll switch it up. Scott, how you feeling in general?
Well, I think I'm always making progress. And, one of the reasons this panel, and we've gotten together, the four of us a few times and had these really amazing discussions, is finding out the commonalities on things that we've been reading and doing. And Katie, I can't believe after all this time, we didn't realize we're both, doing yoga, I guess. But I think I'm always making progress and moving forward. And I'm also not afraid to say, okay, this worked. It's not working anymore. Let's look at something else.
love that.
Yeah. Romica, how you feeling? I know you're really dedicated to these practices. It's very impressive all that you've got going on.
I feel like I'm in a pretty good place in my learning. I mean, obviously, I can always improve. I think we can always find room for improvement. I do have days where, sometimes I don't want to do certain things, but now, with an accountability partner, obviously, I'm being held accountable, so I do them. But I would say overall, I look for any opportunity to learn, because for me, it's like learning is not only through books, it's not only through a program or a mastermind, but it's also through life experience. It's also through conversations that I have with people, or what can I learn from, any kind of interaction that I've had. So I have a journal, and every night I try to journal, about what went well, what could I improve. And, in my journal, I write all the things that I learned. So that's kind of how it goes for me.
Bravo. Good discipline.
Love that.
So everybody on the panel has mentioned various podcasts and some books and other resources. For those attending, we have compiled a reading and a listening document that we'll have the Start Out team pop it into the chat there. So feel free to look at it, download it, which is a compilation of the panelists' recommendations. I'd love to go around the circle and get one or two of your top recommendations of books that you read over and over and really resonate with you, your strongest recommendations. And Scott, if you want to start.
I was trying to remember what I put on that list, because it seems like, it seems like things are changing. A book that I just came across, again, I read 15 years ago by a guy named Tim Sanders, called Love is the Killer App. And he was the chief marketing officer for Yahoo. And at one point, I just read it again last week, and it really speaks to leading from a place of caring, and that is resonating with me today. Some other ones that I've read that are a little bit more controversial would be, and Sandra, you and I had talked about Atlas Shrugged, and as an entrepreneur, Ayn Rand really kind of resonates because, hey, I'm going to do it myself and I'm going to bootstrap and I don't need a bunch of people doing it for me. Her view on helping other people sometimes goes against my inclinations of helping other people. So those are two of the things that come to mind at the moment.
Great. And, on the document that's there is everyone's kind of longer list, but Katie, you want to go next? I think there was one or two books that you totally loved and mentioned a few times in our prep calls.
Yeah, well, it's funny because now that we're talking about it, I'm like, which ones do I put down? Because there's some other
Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself.
That one is so good. Yeah, thank you. Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza is actually, I have it right here in front of me. How about that? It's super powerful. It's basically, it helps with all kinds of things, but it helps you recognize when you're falling into triggers from past trauma and how to navigate that and the science behind it. And so it's very fascinating. I love Dr. Joe Dispenza. Highly recommend listening to anything of his. Very smart individual. But actually the one that came to mind right now was Start With Why by Simon Sinek. Another powerful TED Talk and book, both amazing, especially when it comes to leadership and how figuring out why you do what you do. That one, and the last one I'll recommend is I recommend him to everyone. It's Impact Theory. It's a podcast by Tom Bilyeu. Those are the three that I'm going to recommend, as well as the ones that I have on the list. So
great, thanks. And I listened to that podcast after you sent it my way. So thanks for that recommendation. Yeah. And Romica?
So there's a few different books that I want to recommend. And obviously one of my favorite books is called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. That was a book that I read back when my first business failed and I was going through a really difficult time in my life, just in general. And that book really helped me to see, change my perspective on a lot of different aspects of my life that was really bringing me down, and it really taught me to be optimistic. And I think as an entrepreneur, it's so important to be optimistic because you're going to face challenges and go through things in your life. And optimism is key to really growing and expanding as an entrepreneur. So I highly recommend that book. And also Psycho-Cybernetics by Max Maltzwell or something like that. And that book is a game changer because it really helps you to reprogram your self-image. Again, it goes down to confidence, right? As an entrepreneur, as a leader, you want to be confident. You really want to, improve your self-image, the way that you see yourself and the way that you show up. And that book really, really goes deep into helping you do that. And then the last book that I want to recommend specifically for start out panel, the people that are here, because I'm assuming that people here are in startups. And one of the books that I read when my first business failed was called What I Learned Losing $1 Million. And I think it's by Jim Paul and Brendan. I can't remember the names of the authors.
Jim Paul and Brendan Moynihan. Yeah.
In that book, I was deeply in debt. And for me, reading that book, I wish I would have read that book before what I went through. But if you really want to learn and save a lot of time and just learn some lessons, that book can really help you, learn a lot of things. So extremely important book. I highly recommend it.
Great. Thanks for all those recommendations. I have a few props here. Malcolm Gladwell, Outliers. Love this book. Anything He Does, great podcast. A book that came out last year during COVID, Arlen Hamilton's It's About Damn Time. If you haven't read it, definitely a good read. And kind of just a tool for maybe people earlier in the kind of prepping and looking at starting a business model generator. It's kind of like a more of a college course, handbook to put your ideas down, when fleshing out ideas for starting a business. So thanks for all that. And actually, Romica, one of the things on your list was about focus blocks. So can you tell everybody what that is more, and how you use it, and maybe how it can be a new tool or an active tool for the attendees as well?
Yes, focus blocks is a game changer. I discovered focus blocks a couple of months ago, and prior to focus blocks, I was constantly getting distracted. Now I have an accountability partner, but back then I didn't, and I was scheduling things and then running off and doing other errands or doing other things, and then my focus was just really scattered. And so I discovered focus blocks. I enrolled in it, and everything changed for me when I joined focus blocks. Basically, it's a system. There is a monthly fee to it, but you join it, basically you're in a co-working space, and you basically schedule out like certain blocks of time, and then you show up, and then you do they start with like a deep breathing exercise to get you like in state, and then you work for 50 minutes, and then you end with an exercise to kind of end the session. And basically you can do many focus blocks as you can, and it helps you to get so much done. I literally can get like 3 hours or 2, like what I would normally get done in a week, I can do in like a couple of days with focus blocks. So I have a lot of free time now, which I love, thanks to focus blocks, and really highly recommended for entrepreneurs.
And can you find it like in every city? Is it international? Is it?
You can access focus blocks online. Like there's people all over the world that join it. And you can just go to it's actually by 2000 Books. It's a company called 2000 Books. Mm-hmm. And you can go online and just join it. And I think they have a free trial where you can try it out and see if you like it.
Okay, great. All right. Yeah, thanks for that. It's it feels like it's like newer. Am I right in that? That's something that people can access now. Cool. All right. I wanted to move on to talk about mentorship a little, and we have another polling question to touch on mentoring. We'll discuss it, but if we could push up that question: do you currently have a mentor in your business life or in your life? So we'll give the attendees some time to respond to that. And while people are answering that question, I'd mentioned that StartOut has a very interesting mentorship program. I've been a mentor for startups now. They do a great job at matching people. If you're interested in being a mentor or mentee, definitely visit the startout.org website. You'll see the mentor tab there, and you can get involved into the next cycle of being a mentor or mentee. So the responses are coming in, and it looks like right now it's pretty close to half of the audience. Exactly half have a mentor and half not now, but they're open to it. So yeah, that's great. Thank you for answering that. And let's hand the microphone to you, Scott. And if you could tell us kind of about your walk with mentorship, how it's been for you and where you are.
Sure. I've had a variety of different mentors at different points in my life, and some are people that have held me accountable professionally, and some have been on a personal basis. Right now, I have a couple of people that I consider mentors that have done similar businesses and failed, succeeded, and have been able to challenge me along the way. In my personal life, I came out when I was in my 40s. So I found somebody else I knew who had been married and had a family and had come out and asked for some advice along the way. And it was good to have somebody as a guide. It's kind of like a GPS. You don't have to follow the advice of the GPS, but it usually helps if you do. And that's kind of my history with mentors. And in fact, I've been a mentor to a number of people, and it's fun and frustrating. It's kind of like being a parent, being a mentor, because you can't do it for them. And when somebody is successful, it feels fantastic, right? Because you've assisted them along the way. And it's also frustrating when they don't necessarily, again, follow the roadmap, and you're like, well, I don't want to say I told you so, but you can think that yourself. But I've had a really fantastic experience with mentors, and I'm always looking for other people that I can network with and can mentor me along in different aspects.
It's important stuff, definitely. Very helpful. Katie, your
yeah, so I'm a huge believer in mentorship coaching. We have Romica here, and we have started out with an amazing mentorship program, actually. So I started, my whole life I've been an athlete, so I always had coaches. I've always had outside coaches. I played college softball, so I had a hitting coach, for example. And I always knew that in order for me to get better, whether professionally, personally, or sports wise, I needed to surround myself with people more knowledgeable than me. So fast forward, I started my Coffee Pass in 2018. And the first thing that I knew was that I didn't know a lot about startups or a ton about business. I'm a very passionate human. I will work harder than anyone I know. And I'm willing to sacrifice. So I knew that I needed someone who knew more about business. I found a business coach. And then from there, I started networking and finding other founders that have done amazing with their companies. And so I've surrounded myself with them. But I'm just a firm believer that to get to wherever you want to be in life, you have to surround yourself with smarter people. And it's just like Scott had said, like, I would say too, I've had mentors that have given me advice. There's one mentor in particular, and I tell the story all the time. One mentor, he's younger, but he's started like 8 startups already. Very intelligent guy, but every time he gives me advice, I love it because it gives me actually a solution to another thought that I had. And he actually asked me one time, he was like, why do you never take my advice? And I was like, it's not that I don't, I definitely hear you and I appreciate it. I just find that your advice actually leads me to other solutions. So there's always that, right? There's that, but yeah, I definitely believe in mentorship, and I will say again, Start Out has a great mentor program. So if you are looking for a mentor, you can definitely start there and be a part of that.
Great, thanks. And I actually wanted to ask is, it feels like you've been an athlete your whole life, and this idea of having coaches. I mean, when you got into the startup world, did you say, like, I just know I need that coach as soon as possible to like hone my game and, make contacts and, learn, the process and benefit from it?
Definitely. So when I started, I actually went to Capital Factory, because everyone knows Capital Factory here in Austin. And it's a big startup hub. So I went with the intent of hopefully networking with the speaker that was speaking, being a mentor, and then I came out with a business coach. So it worked out. And then from there, I was able to get more knowledge and again, like network and kind of just bring people into my circle that I trusted and who I vibed with. I would say that's another thing, is there are some mentors that you just don't vibe with, and that's totally fine. But finding those people that do is very important. And very important. I cannot stress that enough. It's just, the great advice that I always say to people is, if we look at Steve Jobs, for example, just as an example, he was interviewed and he was asked, like, what makes you qualified for this as a founder or to be a CEO? And he was like, I know that I don't know anything and that there's people out there who do, and I just surround myself with those people. So, obviously Apple is huge now, so he did something right. So that's what I always say.
Yeah, nice point. Good example. Thank you. And Romica?
Yeah, I would say, like, My very first mentor was actually, I consider my father, because growing up, like he was in sales and he was always coming home, like he was getting a lot of awards and really just hitting like the top sales every year after year. And for me, growing up and seeing that was like really exciting. And then he got into real estate, part-time, and got into like land development and stuff. And so for me, that was like my first taste of what entrepreneurship really was. And so that he always gave me like really sound advice, like go for your dreams, like don't give up. Even when my first business failed, he was always really like behind me, telling me to keep going for it, like don't give up no matter what. And so for me, like he was like literally my first mentor. But I didn't actually have a real like true taste of like mentorship until I got sober in 2016. And I consider my first mentor, who wasn't a business mentor, but what I would call my sponsor in 12th step. And my sponsor really taught me, how to live, like literally, because I had to start my life over again. And that was like the first time I understood the value of mentorship. And after that, obviously, I got coaches, I got business coaches, and I still have coaches. I invest in masterminds, and I continue to learn and grow. And to me, I always think like all the successful people in the world, whether they're athletes or leaders, whoever it is, like all the successful people all have mentors and coaches around them. And so it only makes sense, right? Like to surround yourself with people that have gone through what people that have what you want, basically. And for you to learn from them and apply it and just keep growing. So mentorship and coaching is a huge part of my growth.
Yeah, I mean,
Romica,
that's great insight. Scott, you first.
I was going to say, you mentioned a mastermind, and it's interesting. About 8 years ago, my kids like to say I collect people. I everywhere I go, I'm talking to people, and so I'm interested in what they're doing. So I've been to networking events and other business associates, and about 8 years ago, I created my own little mastermind group. And mastermind is I think it's a Napoleon Hill term from the Think and Grow Rich book, where you find a bunch of people who basically can be consultants to you for free. So they're your friends who, for example, in mine, there was a guy who had built a business that he had sold to a publicly held company, and he was starting a new one. Somebody else whose background is an accountant. There was a attorney in it, a banker. So we would get together for lunch and we'd talk about our businesses and things that we're working on. And this was kind of a little cohort where we can mentor each other, but not be a mentor. But together we can do it because we all brought something a little bit different to the table. And that's when you mentioned a mastermind group. That's kind of what Napoleon Hill was talking about in Think and Grow Rich. And that was really invaluable to me. And I've really learned what I don't know. And I'm humble enough to say, oh, I'm not smart enough to do this. The person who moves our freight around, I'm not going to pretend like I understand how she books the trucks. I just know she does. So when I'm meeting with somebody from a freight company, that's one of our biggest expenses. And as everybody knows, the ports are congested. There aren't enough truck drivers. The stuff's not on the shelf. I'm asking questions about what's keeping them up, these people from these freight companies, and I'm trying to get smarter. And that's the first thing that I learned really from my mentors was, don't be the smartest person in the room. Ask lots of questions.
I think too, really fast, sorry, another quick, like to feed off of what Scott was just talking about. I think something to remember as entrepreneurs is we don't have to know everything about everything. And sometimes I feel inadequate because I feel like I don't know the answers to everything. And I've had to really like be okay with that feeling. and just make sure I'm still asking all of the questions to people who are smarter than me in a different area, right? Like I was starting a tech startup, and my background's marketing. So tech is not something for me that I write, like software development and stuff like that. So I think Scott made a great point there, is that we don't have to know everything as entrepreneurs, and that's okay. That's why we have mentors and other people surrounding us, masterminds.
Great points. Great points. And I also find that mentoring, being a mentor or having mentees, there's like a cycle of life. It can be in your life for a very long time. Just last night, I had dinner with a mentee from a program I mentored in Europe in 2013, I believe. And this is his first trip, he's from India. And he's going to 6 or 7 states to meet with clients and fundraising. So I've watched him grow up, and now I'm more like an advisor, and he gives me updates, but I think we'll always be in each other's lives. And it's it started out as a mentor-mentee relationship, but we're close friends. So it can definitely go beyond just great advice, but someone you can lean on as well. So yeah, lots of great points. And I love, Romica, that you shared your father was your first mentor. I mean, it's a good point. The people in our lives that we grow up with, certainly guide us a lot as we grow up, and, it's good. So we've got like 15 more minutes. I want to encourage everybody attending. Still a lot of people here on the call. If you've got any questions, we welcome them. We'd love to answer your questions as well. And let me also say there's one more polling question, and we'll pop that up, and then we'll jump on to the next question. But the polling question is from Katie's company. Are you interested in receiving a gift from Evergreener? And what we'll do at the end of this, we will randomly pick 3 people, and then we will send you a wonderful package of items. And actually, while we're on it, Katie, if you want to explain, while people are filling that out, a little more about your company and what will be in this great package of gifts.
Yeah, I would love that. So like I'd mentioned before, we have 4 products. We have it's cool because our product is actually a very simplified product. We have a wall calendar where you have 3 goals, and then there's like inspirational quotes, and it's just very like simplified and easy to follow. There's a check, or there's in the calendar itself, there's little check boxes for each day, so that at the end of the year or the end of the month, you can go back and be like, we don't celebrate enough, right? We don't celebrate our wins enough. I will say it, especially as entrepreneurs, we do not celebrate enough, or leaders, right? So going back, like at the end of the week and be like, oh my gosh, I did that 5 days out of 7. Like that's a win. So celebrating that win. So that's one of our products. We have a wall calendar. We have a dry erase calendar as well. That's not monthly. So it's cool. You can mark the month that it is. And if you start your goals tomorrow on November 17th, you can do it that way as well. And then we have a journal. So those 3 items we will be sending to 3 people, correct? We're picking
3 people.
Yep. Yeah. And then I do want to mention too, feel free to go to our website. There is a discount code. It's START OUT, all caps. You get 20% off your order. And yeah, it is the holidays and the new year is coming up.
Great, thank you, and thank Evergreener. And we'll, like I said, we'll pick 3 names, and then we'll follow up with people and get their address. And there's no purchase, there's no commitment, just a gift on behalf of Evergreener. Great. So thanks for taking part in that poll. So I have a fun question. If each of you could take a retreat, money was no issue, some kind of yoga retreat or some kind of great week away for more growth and learning, what kind of getaway would you take? Romica, you want to start?
That's an interesting question. There's quite a few that I would have in mind, but definitely one of the things that I want to do is I don't think I want to do ayahuasca, but I definitely want to do a silent retreat. probably in Bali, because I just haven't done something like that. And I think it would be awesome to like just be in Bali and just spend like a whole week and just not talk, not say anything, and just experience being in silence. And so probably a silent retreat would be definitely on my top list, but I have quite a few.
Great. Oh, sounds good. And Katie?
It's funny because I actually want to do ayahuasca because I'm that person that likes to just like dive deep into the nitty gritty. So that is the one I actually do want to do. But I will say one other, I know you said one, but Dr. Dispenza, going back to him, has a retreat that he does in Mexico, and I am dying to go to that. So those are the two that I really want to do.
Great, thanks. And Scott, your
Again,
thoughts?
you guys are so much deeper than I am. I don't know. You know, when Sandra, when you asked the question, I was thinking, oh, well, I'd like to like spend a week, you know, learning how to cook in Tuscany, or I would like to, you know,
That's cool.
those kinds of things. I was intrigued by there was a company that I had read about called Remote Year, and they were right before the pandemic, where you pick up, and it's perfect for entrepreneurs, where you can pick up, and every month you go to a different country around the world. Of course, now people aren't traveling anywhere, but they're doing 3 or 4 months in a variety of cities in Mexico, which actually sounded really interesting. So again, challenging the process and looking for something that's outside my comfort zone.
Yeah, and you can see from the responses of the 3 or 4 options. I mean, we all feed our brains in different ways.
Yes.
So thanks for sharing that. There's a question from Tony. If some of you have been through the fundraising effort, what are your best lessons learned, learning resources, networks for LGBTQ founders? If anybody, Katie, you have any input on the funding part of
Yeah,
it that you can share?
I did do some fundraising. It wasn't, I mean, they knew that I was part of the LGBTQ community, but it was actually, that's a long story, but essentially like that kind of just fell into my lap. So I feel very blessed that it happened. But I will say that I do know people in Start Out that have access funds through being a part of Start Out, whether it was like the Gangel Network. I know that actually my co-chair for the networking and community, actually, I'm going to give a shout out to him. The networking community programming board, his name is Ben Stokes. He just started actually a venture fund called Chasing Rainbows. So I know that he's looking for opportunities to invest. So actually, that might be someone, if you want to message me, I can make an intro for you. I would love to do that. So other than that, yeah, I've been a part of a couple of cohorts accelerator programs. Those are awesome. There's a lot to learn. It's literally a crash course we have the hackathon with Start Out. So there's just so many opportunities, and depending on the city, right? Each city is different, but yeah, if you need any more assistance in that, I'm sure you can just reach out to me in my LinkedIn, and I will be glad to connect.
So yeah, the Startup team dropped the URL for Chasing Rainbows, and to add to that, certainly our Startouts demo day every year, other events, and our portal, you know, to connect with VCs from all over the country. And if Scott, you have more to add.
I was going to say that what impressed me, by the way, with demo day was the breadth of the companies. And the fact that they were from all over the place. It wasn't just tech companies from Silicon Valley or something. There was, and how different the applications were. So I think that's really fantastic. I'm dealing with funding issues myself, where we're going private funding through family offices. So we're not trying to raise funds per se. So that's why Katie, your experience, I'm like, wow, that's really cool.
Cool. I think we've got a few more minutes left. Are there any other questions? We definitely welcome those questions while we have time. And with that said, yeah, this has been a great discussion. I feel really exhilarated from everything that everyone is sharing. I feel like there are a lot of new resources that I'm looking forward to, delving into and incorporating to continue my learning. And I know that, the more we learn, it gives us new ways to solve our problems, because, we're all, if we have small business or startup, we're often isolated working on a lot of these challenges ourselves. So thank you for sharing everything.
Sandra, there's a question in the Q&A
Yes, so
about virtual assistants and how to communicate in project management. I can tell you even before the pandemic, our company, we've always been virtual, and we use Microsoft Teams just as a way to communicate between our group. I know there are other technical tools that people use. Probably Katie, your team probably uses Slack and Asana and those kinds of tools.
Exactly. You pinpointed it. Two, we have a coach that we work with, and she's in Basecamp. So we do Basecamp, Slack, Asana. Those have been awesome, those tools.
Yeah, there's a question there for you, Katie. As a non-technical founder, how do you start the learning process and be more confident day to day?
I would say this is in sports and in startup world in general. Knowledge is key. So I would say listen to all the podcasts, depending on what industry you're in. So I did have, my startup was a tech startup, and then again, that is on the back burner because of COVID. And then I was the VP of sales and marketing for a CPG company. And now I'm the CMO for a product company, e-commerce. So I've kind of switched industries a couple times. But I will say that knowing the industry and surrounding yourself, being confident, honestly, it's so funny because I probably look and sound very extroverted, but I am actually very introverted. So I have learned and pushed myself to be extroverted. So it's interesting, when I started my coffee pass, I would literally go to networking events, and I'm just kind of like this weird, crazy person, I guess. But if I felt uncomfortable, I would push myself to do it anyways. And the more that I did it, the more that I found it was like a muscle. So now I can actually go up to anyone on the street and talk to them. And that has helped me with my confidence as well. So it's funny that was the question, but that's what's helped me, is just making sure that I push myself outside of my comfort zone, because success doesn't live within our comfort zone, essentially, is what I found. So that's just me.
Well, bravo for sharing all that insight and honesty. That's great.
Always. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So, final thoughts. We've got 5 minutes left. If any other questions come in, we'll take them. But Romica, do you want to leave us with any pearls of wisdom, parting thoughts?
Yeah, this has been a great event. Thank you, everybody, for showing up, and thanks so much for your questions. I just want to leave with, I think it's really important. One of the things that I learned in my learning journey, I just want to leave that whatever you learn in your journey, make sure that you're also applying. Because one of the things that I didn't do for a long time is just learn, and actually not take action. So part of the learning process is actually like 50% of the equation is actually applying and taking action. And through that action, the more you take action, obviously, the more you're going to learn, and the more you're going to like take the wisdom from that and keep growing. So that's my parting thoughts when it comes to this whole journey of learning.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Can
Scott?
I add?
Oh, yeah.
Can I add to that? It rang up something for me. Failure, right? That word comes up a lot, whether it's in business or with athletics, right? Being okay to fail. And this is what I tell my girls that I coach softball still, or used to, is being okay to fail, because in those failures, right? I wish that we reframed it as society, honestly, where it's not being scared to fail, but yet feeling empowered to continue forward and learn from those failures, right? So I know Romica, the first business failed, but you learn so much, right, through that failure, right? So being willing to continue forward, essentially, But yeah, just being willing to fail. Like I think that goes kind of hand in.
Yeah.
And just to add to that, Katie, is talking about failure. Just want to add that everybody fails. Like no matter what, like you're failing even as a child, like when you're learning how to walk, like you're learning how to walk and you're going to fail, right? So but we're always like failing at like all throughout our lives. It's a normal part of our life, but I think we're so afraid that we're failing and what other people are going to think, not realizing that everybody in their lives have either failed or are failing at something. So it's okay. Yeah. It's part of the process, and just to accept it, own it, and just keep moving forward.
Absolutely. I was at a seminar once where the guy got up and he said, "You'll stop caring what other people think of you when you realize how seldom they do." So I have no problem going up to anybody at a networking event and talking to them, and I've got that elevator pitch down. But you put me in a bar and I'm clueless. So it's the same skill set, just in a different. So I take what I would do weightlifting or doing if my kids were learning how to ride a bike. You fall down. If you're weightlifting, right, and you're trying to squat something, and when you fail, you just let go. And well, something wasn't right today. Wasn't the right day. Not every day is going to be a personal best.
I also want to add like that. I remember Kobe Bryant saying one time, like, you got to get over yourself, and I know it sounds kind of harsh, but it's actually true. Like at some point, you just have to not like get over yourself and just focus on other people and who you're serving, like not so much yourself, like, because people don't really care. Like people don't care.
It's so funny that you mentioned him, because literally I was going to say a quote by him, because he talks about failure all the time. There was an interview of Cheyenne Parker. She's in the WNBA, really close to the Bryant family. And she asked him, she was like, you're basically, there was a game where he missed, or he made like 7% of the shots that he took, only 7%. And then at the end of the game, he was asked to win the game-winning shot. And he's basically like saying, the answer was like, I basically don't believe in failure. Like, I've done the shot over and over and over and over again. Like, I should at this point be able to do it. So he just continues with confidence. And sometimes, right, that phrase, fake it till you make it, it doesn't really ring true with me, but taking the steps forward, right, continually taking those steps, despite failure or setback, it's just always a learning opportunity. So, yes.
And I think in all of this too, like self-love, I know it's kind of an overused term, but really when you start to really appreciate and love yourself and just know from like deep in your heart that you are worth it, no matter what, like you just won't, the self-conscious feelings and focusing on yourself, like it's not even going to be a big deal anymore. You're naturally going to be able to focus on other people because you just know like in your heart that you're worth it. So focus on self-confidence and self-love.
Self-love, yes.
Well, on that note, thank you, panelists, Scott, Katie, and Romica, and the Start Out team. Thank you so much. Thank you to the attendees. In the document of reading and listening are all the contact details if you want to contact the panelists in any Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. Everybody is open to answering any other questions, should you have them after this event. And this has been really honest and really inspiring. So thank you for sharing all the tools and resources and the need to be involved with mentorship and continue to grow and expand our minds. And Scott, you said trying to get smarter,
Yep.
Yeah. It's important. So again, it's 6:01. We'll let everyone get back to their evenings. And thank you so much for your time, and have a great rest of the evening, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.